Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing in playing, some tips you may like to pass on, etc., etc. So let's start with, do you have a warm-up practice or routine that you do before you go out and play? And if so, what is it?
That's a good question. I used to sit with practice pad, like this type of practice pad and the Gibraltar black practice pad that you can play with your pedals. I used to play with that for like an hour before every show, and I'd go up like sweaty and already warmed up. And then I realized that I've been playing drums for a while, and I don't need to learn how to play drums anymore. I just need to get my heart rate up. So now I have a jump rope, and I jump rope for like 15 minutes. I'm a little bit sweaty, my heart rate's up, and I just go up and play. And that's just as effective, probably a little bit more, because if I'm playing too much, especially with a foot practice pad, you get used to the way the rebound feels. And then when you get up and you go right into playing on that kick, it takes a little bit, a song or two to get used to it. And by that time, you've kind of flubbed your way through some material, which isn't good, especially for a metal band. So for me, it's just about getting my heart rate up. I go up, I'm pumped, and I'm happy. Those are the two ingredients. Excited to play, and I'm like smiling, like I'm happy to be there. Doesn't matter how warmed up I am. If I'm bummed and I'm like, oh, you're sitting here like this, it doesn't matter how well you know the songs or how warmed up you are, it's not going to go well. For me, at least.
So how long did it take you to sort of adapt to playing, A, the size of the venues that you're playing,
right,
and B, to have the stamina to cope with a long set?
Right. The size, I don't think you ever really get used to. Like, we just played our biggest headliner ever. Being a headliner, playing for 3,000 people. 3,000 people came to see us. You get up there and you just look out and, you know the feeling. It's just your heart goes crazy. And I think the day that you lose that feeling, maybe you shouldn't be doing it anymore. At least for me, the feeling of excitement comes out almost in nerves in a way, but it's not a bad nervous feeling. It's like, wow, this is adrenaline. This is excitement. I can't wait to do this. And yeah, I'm a little nervous. And I've always felt that way before I play. But it makes me play with a punch that I don't think I would otherwise.
Are you playing differently? Do you think you approach the drums differently, the size of the venue, or you manage just to stick the same way?
I think I do play differently.
Okay.
Yeah, like if I were to set up in this room and play for 20 people, I would probably not hit as hard because I wouldn't want to shatter people's eardrums, whereas if we're playing in this huge room, I'm going to just lay in. So I think I do a little bit, but I've tried to curb that because obviously playing in 1,000 cap versus 3,000, your mics are going to do the job and you should just play the way you play.
Okay, and stamina-wise?
Yeah, so stamina. Well, I work out 3 times a week, weights, and then I try to practice between 30 minutes and 4 hours a day.
Okay.
And
what do you practice?
Well, it depends. Like, I like to play our songs, and so that's a workout. So I play our whole set from start to finish, I like to go online and just watch other people playing and sort of pick up stuff. And then sometimes I'll just sit there and play, come up with different stickings and ideas. I'm very, checklist, goal-oriented. So I'll have, a notebook next to my drum kit. It'll say, double bass, 30 minutes, And I think this is why I need something tangible. If I don't have something tangible, then I walk away from drum practice and I'm like, what did I do for 3 hours? But if I can check stuff off a list, then it feels like the same feeling you get when you mow your lawn. Like, your grass is long, you mow it, and now it looks really good. I need that feeling with drumming. And so sweat, okay, that's sort of that feeling, but also check stuff off a list. So I'll just sort of make a list of stuff I suck at and hopefully get better.
That's interesting that you say that because, there is 2 ways of people learning. There's the person that doesn't like a system but still achieve the goals, and the person that likes the system. Now, we've both got something in common, as in we both like to work out or go to the gym. And obviously when we go into the gym, we already know what we're going to do, and not just go in and go, what's going on.
Yeah.
So when you're making that list, are you making the list and using it as a 4-week program or a 6-week? Is there any system in that list, or are you sitting down? That's today's, and now I'm going to move on to the next day.
Okay, that's a good question. I like to look ahead a little bit. So I'm usually home for like a month or 3 months between tours. That will be my regimen. So it's like, oh, I'm home for a month. I want to get my double bass from 200 to 210 in that amount of time. So it's almost like, you know how people do New Year's resolutions?
Yeah.
It's like, it's good for human nature to like push reset. It's the same way with me with touring. I'll get home from a tour and I'll be like, all right, boom, here's where I'm at. Face the facts. It might suck to think I can only go that fast and I want to go this fast, but I have a month to get better. And every time I come home from tour, it's like I get to push reset and work my way towards my goal.
I can totally relate to this.
Yeah.
I'm grinning because it's like, wow, okay, this is exactly what... and it's interesting that there is the opposite, and both seem to work.
Yeah, they both work.
Yeah. I mean, where do you... So how different is... When you're on the road, are you just maintaining what you've already got, or are you trying to practice when you're on the road as well?
Yeah, I think I hope to stay where I'm at when I'm on tour. If I've done that, I've succeeded.
Okay. But sometimes you aren't on the road for a long time.
We are.
Yeah. So mentally, you can handle that? As in, so with your practice, you can...
Yeah, I can spend enough time on the pad.
Okay.
And maybe in sound check, I can play a little bit longer. I tell the crew, sorry, put in earplugs or keep your in-ears in. I want to play a little bit. You know, I kind of suck at this part, and you know what it's like. When you're playing shows, you can't... It's hard to get better, and it's hard to fix the stuff that you're not good at, because you get to play it one time, and it's during the show, and here it goes, and you mess it up again because you've been thinking about it. And so you need to work that stuff out, and it can be frustrating. And if you don't fix it, then it steals the joy of playing that song, and then steals the joy of the whole show. Because if you're critical about yourself, which I am, then you want to play well. And so my goal is just always to maintain the same level that I'm at. And so here's what I'll say about that. Like, we say in my band, we say that the worst day on the job in this career path, in music, playing in a band, is better than the best day someone else is having at their job. So your worst day here is better than someone else's best day, and it's true. And you need to remember that. And the way I reminded myself is I went home and I got a job landscaping. I like landscaping. In fact, I love landscaping. It's hard work. Shoveling mulch, putting in wheelbarrows, going over it, dumping it in the flower beds, spreading it out. Right now I'm doing snow removal. So you're spending all night shoveling, driving a truck plow, skid loading. Anyway, it's hard to make $150. And you forget about that too easily. And so it's good to remind yourself, wow, it's hard to make $150. Now, wait a second. Go back, pick up a pair of sticks. Wow, you made $150 doing that. So that motivates you to be even better at it, because look how fortunate you are to be doing it in the first place.
Where do you think, when you're sitting down with your list and you've got it all worked out, where does your inspiration come from?
Honestly, people like Aaron Spears.
Okay.
Aaron Spears is, I talk about him a lot, and obviously he's a great drummer, but everyone knows he's a great guy. But what everybody doesn't know is that if there's a room full of people, and there's one person playing drums, and he's not very good, he's a beginner, or he doesn't practice a lot, but he's playing. Aaron will be the one in the back of the room, and of course he's famous. He plays for big acts, right? He's a big name. He's a household name drummer. He could have an applause just for his accolades, But anyway, at the end of that drummer's playing, people sort of, clap a little bit. Aaron's standing up. He's giving him a standing ovation, and he's just like championing that dude, right? And if that's not enough, he goes up and he says, dude, that was awesome. And the guy's like, thank you. What's your name? Oh, my name's Aaron. Oh, cool. Nice to meet you, Aaron. No word about himself being a drummer. Doesn't need to sit down and play. Doesn't need to talk about what he's done, who he is, or who he's played for. And it's that kind of person that shapes, in my opinion, just like not only the good in human nature, but the good in the music industry, which is looking at other people around you and looking out for them.
Right.
And taking someone else who's here and bringing them up to here, because it's such an amazing feeling for that to happen. I mean, that happened to me from Aaron Spears, you know? And when that happens to you, you know, you've had that experience with people where they pick you up and they don't have to do that. It doesn't help them at all.
No.
You know? But in the end, someone like him is so highly regarded because of that. Because that's not his motive. His motive is to help other people. In the end, it just reciprocates back to him.
Okay, I want to ask you a few questions about products, i.e. the first or the drum book that you really got into. You only allowed one of them. What would it be?
Well, I more so got into websites.
Okay.
Mike's Lessons was a big one for me. I got to talk to Mike Johnson on the phone, and he was really helpful and just he said, hey, you know, try out my website. So I looked into it, but I never really learned from other people.
Okay.
Like I didn't take a lot of insight from books. I honestly couldn't name one book that like stood out to me, you know, more than Stick Control, I think, a little bit. Okay. Just because I really like independence, and in that book you're accentuating like kick drum snare patterns, which is really cool to me, like paradiddle, on this hand threes. But for me, I just had all these ideas in my head, and I'd sit there and say, oh boy, I can't play this, but I'm going to practice until I can. And that's how I got better.
Did you have any drum teachers back at the beginning and
I had
guidance?
I had a couple guys I would go to here and there, and it was frustrating for me because they would sit here on a pad and they would teach me a paradiddle, which I already knew. I had a really bad speech impediment, and so I was too afraid to like speak up and be like, hey, I already know that. Could we work on something else? It wasn't their fault. Yeah. But I took 4 lessons from a guy named Clyde Lucas. He lived in Lancaster, and he played with Ray Charles and and a few other guys. And this guy broke me. I went in thinking I knew everything, you know, and he'd say everything with a smile, you know, played on the crappiest drum set you've ever seen in your life. And I'm like, what is this, you know? But that's the way to learn. Play on junk, and then when you get to play on nice stuff, you're like, wow, I can make anything sound good, I guess, you know, because you learn with the worst. That was Clyde. He had such an amazing way of teaching. But he broke me and he taught me, you're not all that. You need to learn how to control all of your limbs and play with your heart. Right. And that was the broad stroke type of teaching I needed, not just this like focus, stand, here's a rudiment. Because that didn't work for me. I knew I could learn that anywhere. And it wasn't going to help me all that much. I needed to learn, like, wait a second, slow it down, and play from your heart, and stop thinking about, you know, all the things you can do. Focus on the stuff that you can't
do. Very good. Yeah. So if you can, this final question, if you can give one lesson, pass it forward to all these people watching and listening to this. Yeah. From a superstar rock drummer. Yeah, right. Come on, Matt.
Who are you talking about?
What would it be?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think you have to look at the people around you and remember that when you're a successful person, you're going to look at people more successful than you. And you'll never consider yourself successful. When you're a rich person, you're going to look at people richer than you. You'll never consider yourself a rich person. If you're a good drummer, you're never going to think you're good if you're always looking at people that are great. Look around at the world around you and say, these are people that are good, and these are people actually that I've been playing longer than, or I'm more improved than them. And use that perspective to encourage yourself, but also to humble yourself to say, hey, I'm going to help this person out to try to get them up to my level, because I know how to get here. Yeah. I've been there. I can help them get to this level. And that will both give you the confidence that you should have as a drummer, because drumming takes confidence, right? And then also it will help you to become the drummer everyone wants in their life, you know, the Aaron Spears, if you will, who's like reaching out and helping other people get to where they are.
Brilliant. Now, I have to just add one more thing to this. And you talked about your speech impediment. Again, I have had students who have had the same issues as you, and obviously you went and you solved that problem, and I would imagine you went to do the breathing, etc., etc. Do you think that drumming helped you with that? Because speech impediment would have been a confidence issue.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and so do you think behind that drum kit and the way that you played, do you think that was a major help?
Man, I've never actually thought about it that way. Drumming's done more for me than probably anything else in my life. So yeah, it would have had to have been a huge, solution. And it's frustrating having something that's so public and then being able to like battle through it. And it's funny, like I can't remember when it stopped.
Right.
I just look back and I say, boy, that used to happen to me, and now it doesn't. But all along, the constant's been drumming. So probably these two silly sticks,
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Please carry on doing what you're doing.
Yep.
And everybody, there's some great tips there. So thank you.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers. Well
Thanks.
done.